Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. Today, it is Spooky Chick and
Horror Dick.
Oh, God. Okay. Today, you guys, we have the producer filling in for Allie, our Miss Little Allison. She is on a backpacking trip through Peru, riding on the backsides of llamas out there. Alpacas. Just joking. She is just a little bit sick today. And poor girl sounds like a 90-year-old smoker. We were like, girlfriend, we want you to rest because we got fun stuff planned this weekend.
I remember when Psycho first came out. I was just a little girl.
So anyways, we have another 90-year-old smoker filling in for Allison today. But don't worry, you guys. She will be back on the next episode, but she is going to skip this one. And we have the producer filling in for her today. So that'll be fun.
Hey, hi, hello, I'm here.
Hello, there
Hi.
you are.
I live here. Just, who's going to do it?
Who's going to do it?
She looks around the room, looks at Cowboy first, then me. I was more game than he was.
I almost mic'd up Cowboy, but I don't know if it would translate. He has too many thoughts about this film that I don't think y'all are ready to hear. But
it'd be mostly heavy breathing.
Yeah, but one day. But anyways, what the hell have you been up to? What have we been up to?
That's what I was gonna flip around. Like, what have you been up to? Because what have you been up to? I've been there.
Well, okay. So first and foremost, you guys, and I know we alluded to this on our last podcast, but since I have last talked to you, we have launched motherfucking merch.
Whoop, whoop.
And it is just, I can't even tell you, I can't describe the feeling of seeing you guys message us and let us know that you've put your orders in. A lot of you are getting your orders now and have been posting them on Instagram and seeing you wear our stuff. I truly can't express what that means to all of us. We are so thankful that we have such an awesome little Spooky Chicks family. And I don't know, I could just cry. But anyways, I'm gonna make this happy. Thank you all so much.
This is something that we had been working on for about a year. And it was a lot of just one, feeling if we were ready for something like that.
Yeah.
We weren't really sure if people would buy stuff. We wouldn't really be expecting anyone because at the end of the day, we wanted to release merch for you guys, for the listeners. We wanted to, I don't know, give you guys something cool to be psyched about. So we were very back and forth on all the designs for a while, figuring out what platform we wanted to put it on, what made sense for us. But
ordering
most of all,
samples so that we knew stuff we were going to get you guys was going to be good quality. Because I feel like we did our due diligence with this.
I had a very short stint where I was selling Marcel the Shell t-shirts. So I knew of a couple brands. I was like, these are good. I mean, Marcel looked really good on these. But yeah, and it kind of went off without a hitch. And it's really, really cool. Honestly, it's still a little surreal.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, yeah, no, it's awesome.
It's fucking awesome. So yeah, guys, if you want your exclusive Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks merch, shop.spookychickspod.com has everything that you need, or find us on Instagram, on our website, wherever, and get some merch. We love to see you guys in it. And please, please, please post your merch. I love seeing it. So anyways, yeah. Sorry, I went on a real big long tangent on that, but so excited. And then another thing that we can officially talk about is that we got an exclusive screener to watch Good Boy. Oh my God, I've been oh my God, I cannot stop talking about it, but only to Allie and the producer because those are the only people I was allowed to talk about it with. I'm so excited to say that Fresh Fright will be coming soon as well.
Especially when that comes out. I think it's coming out in the US on the 3rd, and I believe it comes out in the UK on the 10th. Go see it. It is the prime example of low budget with an insanely good story, especially if you're a dog person. I did my dumb dog voice throughout the entire thing.
Oh, yeah.
For what it was so good. So go see it, go support it.
We love indie. Cowboy watched it with us on the couch. He liked it. He was engaged.
He gave it 2 paws.
He gave it 5 paws.
5 paws. He grew a 5th paw and stuck it straight up.
5th paw. I'm sorry. I feel like our updates are a little long today, but I have so many things I want to tell you guys. Well, anyways, on that note, is it okay if I take the film intro? I've never taken it, I don't think.
Do it.
Okay, I'm going to do it. You guys, we are so fucking excited to say that today we are reviewing Psycho from 1960, a Alfred Hitchcock classic, a film that defined the genre. I've got a lot of thoughts. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
You are so excited.
I'm shaking in my seat.
For those that don't know, Alfred Hitchcock is one of the producer's favorite directors. He loves a lot of those films and grew up with them.
Out of all of them, this is hands down my favorite. I have torn this film apart so many times, and it is the story itself is just, it's so good. It's so iconic. There's so many little things that are referenced all over films nowadays. Like the last name Loomis is all over the place. Bates,
Oh, yeah.
things like that. It's had spinoffs. It's had a lot, and it still stands the test of time because of just how different it was and how experimental it was.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it so good.
Yeah. If you have not seen Psycho, this is your spoiler warning. We will be recapping literally everything that happens. So if you don't want us to ruin it for you, please stop, go check it out. But if you are ready, please come on this unfortunate motel stay with us. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So our summary for this film is a secretary on the run for embezzlement takes refuge at a secluded California motel owned by a repressed man and his overbearing mother.
Mothers.
Am I right?
Mother issues. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this like wraps it up really nicely. And we're going to talk about it in a minute, but this film also is very classic for coining the term MacGuffin. I think
The summary itself is a MacGuffin.
it is a MacGuffin a little bit. Yeah, totally. But this film was released initially on June 16th, 1960, and it broke box office records in countries around the world and was also nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Like, that's huge. Psycho is now seen as Hitchcock's masterpiece and is often ranked and referred to as one of the greatest films of all time. To this day, it's actually also one of the most analyzed films in cinema history, as it broke barriers for violence, sexuality, deviant behavior on screen, and it really like paved the way for the slasher genre in general. And in 92, the Library of Congress cemented its legacy by adding it to the National Film Registry as a culturally and historically significant work. So fucking cool.
Yeah, and as I was saying, you can still find remnants of Psycho in everything. And if you ask like any horror director, you name their top 5, Psycho is going to be in there somewhere.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's like so funny because even if it's not someone's favorite film or they shit on it for any reason, they can still recognize how significant it was, though, to filmmaking in general, and then absolutely paramount to the horror genre and the slasher subgenre,
Yeah.
you know?
And it absolutely changed the game. It was doing things other movies weren't. And that was kind of the whole point of that's what kind of made it experimental. And even in the actual like theatrical release, because Psycho itself kind of changed the way that we watch movies in theaters.
Totally.
And so back then, we don't really remember 1960. I know it's way back. But apparently the way people would watch movies back then was just that it would be a theater would have a cycle of movies throughout the day. There wasn't really any true specific time. Some people would just show up halfway through one movie and probably dip out halfway through the next. This was something that apparently a filmmaker had done in around France, and Hitchcock kind of forced theaters to have a very strict rule that once the movie had started, nobody was allowed in the theater.
Oh.
You can leave, sure, bye, but no
one allowed in.
Yeah, exactly. With a lot of twists and a lot of turns. Imagine showing up halfway through the movie and you show up on the shower scene.
Oh my God, yeah.
You don't really know how pivotal that moment is.
And you wouldn't have any context. You'd be like, wait,
None
what?
whatsoever. You wouldn't see the MacGuffin coming. That kind of paved the way and changed the way that theater started to run. People would now start showing up at this specific time because they're like, well, if Psycho's going to throw this at me, what's the next movie going to be?
Yeah.
So that's what started theaters having very specific times. People show up when it starts and they leave when it ends.
Crazy. So cool.
But also there was kind of a flip side to this because Hitchcock also didn't allow critics to see screeners beforehand. And critics were a little upset about that. And they were also a little divided on the violence and sexuality of the entire thing. So obviously with their feathers already a little ruffled, they're a little upset going into it. So it was a lot of bad reviews at first from critics themselves. But with how big it ended up being, how many people in the audience went to go see it, how much money was being spent, it forced these publications to redo their critiques of the film.
Yeah.
And that's when everything skyrocketed even more when it came to like publications.
So crazy. Yeah, I mean, IMDb is 8.5 out of 10, which is, I mean, I don't think we've ever reviewed something that's higher than an 8.5 now at this point. So that tells you everything right there for sure. But I'd be so curious if IMDb was around back in 1960, what would that rating have looked like?
What if Rotten Tomatoes was there?
Yeah, what's the Rotten Tomatoes?
Because the Rotten Tomatoes, tomato meter was 97, popcorn meter 95. I know that the tomato meter is typically critic reviews.
Yeah.
I didn't really do a whole lot of digging to see how old some of those critic reviews are.
Totally.
Critics are allowed to review it now if it still counts. But even with it being 95%, it's still withstanding the test of time. It's been 65 years? It's been 84 years.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I just did the math in my head. You should have seen my eyes rolling in the back of my head. I was like, 1 second. I was like that meme, when the lady's like doing math, all the numbers are behind her, like blurring together. That was me just now.
with all the equations.
And it kind of looks like Julia Roberts, and she's just like, whoa, math.
You went full Raven Simone.
Yeah, I did.
Zoom in on the eyeballs.
Yeah.
But it goes to show that it's withstanding the test of time. And I would say that horror is probably the most critiqued genre.
Totally.
So often
unfair.
we get something in the 7s on IMDb.
Yeah.
So seeing Toy Story numbers for something that came out in the 60s is nuts.
So good. Something else to note about this film, too, is that this film was actually based off of a novel of the same name that was authored by Robert Bloch, which was barely released prior to the conception of the film adaptation. So Hitchcock quickly acquired the rights to the novel for only $9,500 and reportedly ordered his assistant to buy all copies that they possibly could so that they could preserve the novel's surprises. $9,500 maybe doesn't sound like a ton right now, just knowing the critical success of Psycho, but back then that actually was like a good amount of money. And something kind of funny too is that Paramount actually hated Robert Bloch's novel, calling it too repulsive and impossible to adapt. And they wanted Hitchcock to just make another mystery thriller, so they refused him his usual budget. But Hitchcock fired back with a plan. He would shoot the film quickly and cheaply in black and white using his TV crew from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and Paramount still dragged their feet, claiming that there was no budget for a film like this. So Hitchcock had to take another bold step as he offered to finance the movie himself and shot it at Universal as long as Paramount agreed to distribute it. This paid off so well, obviously, because Alfred Hitchcock himself reportedly made close to $15 million from the $807,000 personal investment. So like this man, again, math, I'm not going to do it right now, but more than quadruple his investment.
He was at this weird point in his career. He was obviously well known. He was very famous for making these thrillers.
Yeah.
He was making these huge, big budget films. And even though he was successful, he was never quite satisfied. He had been known for his thrillers being able to scare people.
Yep.
So Psycho was kind of his real first attempt at doing something in horror. And when the book kind of came across him, he saw what it was about and what was going on, especially the whole Ed Gein thing. He really kind of put every ounce of what he had getting this off the ground and getting this rolling.
Totally.
He kept hearing no's and he kept coming up with solutions.
Yeah.
And it ended up with him paying for the whole thing himself. And there's a lot of aspects of it that make it low budget, but because of his approach and how he did it, and because he was so respected, that a lot of people were okay with the discount just because they were still working with a man that they trusted would have a project in like really, really good hands.
I also think that it just shows that this man had so much confidence in how well this film was going to do. Like he knew he was onto something. I don't know about y'all, but I feel like if Alfred Hitchcock was trying to tell me he was going to make a film back then, I'd be like, I trust you, brother.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So it was a classic that almost never got made.
Yeah.
It almost never got off the ground because one, I think a lot of it was fear from the studio because nothing like this had been made. There's a lot of aspects of it that people would turn their nose away from. Even flushing a toilet was insane. And
crazy. That's just a wild.
So there's a lot of aspects of it and there's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't have been made, but he went for it and it paid off.
He went for it anyway. And I mean, yeah, just like you said, absolutely paid off. So bravo. Okay, so I know that was a lot, but we wanted to get into like the meat and potatoes behind this film. And, we were definitely taking bird-like bites, if you will. But we will move on and start this film review. I want to say, first of all, cheers to October.
Whoop, whoop.
Cheers to spooky season. Cheers to launching merch and all of you fucking guys being amazing and supporting this podcast and allowing us to do this week after week, month after month. We love you all so much. And cheers to Allie feeling better. So cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. This film opens in Phoenix, Arizona. I know we mentioned it previously, but this film is completely in black and white. So also something cool that just adds a lot to just the overall feel of the film and just the atmosphere, everything. This film also opens up with this amazing score and this great title scene.
So the score is composed by Bernard Herrmann, who was the same guy that just done North by Northwest with Hitchcock. And so because of the film's tight budget, somehow Alfred convinced Bernard to do it at a fraction of his usual fee. So he kept it super simple and only had a string section for the entire score. So it's nothing but strings. So by that bold simplicity was what made the score iconic.
Yeah.
And that's also something that John Williams took when he made the score for Jaws. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
And that's what works.
Something else that's actually kind of funny about this opening scene is that the date that comes on screen is it's supposed to be set in December 11th. And the only reason that it's set in December was to justify that there are some Christmas decorations in the aerial opening shot. So I love that. They're just like, we're going to make it December, just real quick.
That's something I read, that there was never really a solidified date. But when they saw that they did that shot around Christmas decorations up, they're like, great, now I got to solidify this is Christmas.
But then came out in June. That's fine. It's showbiz, baby. We immediately meet Marion Crane, who is played by Janet Leigh. And for those of y'all that don't know, that is the mother of our lovely Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis. Scream Queen and Final Girl, might I add. And she is a secretary, and she is sneaking in a little bit of a lunchtime tryst with her boyfriend, Sam Loomis, played by John Gavin. It's like right after that they've had a little bit of a romp and they are just chatting before she's going to get back to work. And they're in like a motel, I think, that they paid for just for the afternoon. And they're talking about marriage, money, their future. He has a previous wife that he's paying alimony to. She lives with her sister. There's a lot of complexities of why they can't be fully together in the moment. But Marion's like, dude, I'm over these motel hookups. I want something real. I want us to be together. It's just sad because they want to be together, but there are just things in their lives that are kind of causing some strife right now.
It does seem like finances is probably the biggest holdback.
Yeah.
It's the alimony. It's getting a better place that could hold them. They believe as though that finances is what will bring them happiness.
Yep, totally. But this whole scene does set her and Sam arguably up as somebody just desperate for stability and a better life. So definitely keeping that in mind with the setting the tone of the film. Because then back at work, right when Marion comes in, she is working for a realtor or a realty firm or something where they sell a lot of properties. And she and her co-secretary are working on some final details for a big real estate sale that is about to go through that her boss is about to make. I love this part too, because as she walks back into her office, there's actually a small cameo of Alfred Hitchcock, and he's standing right outside the building. And if you blink, you'll miss it. It's really, really quick, but it's so cool.
But that's something he was known for. He always found a way to cameo himself every film. And this one specifically, he wanted to be in the very beginning because people knew that he did this. So he didn't want people to be distracted trying to find him, where's Waldo throughout the whole thing. Just get out of the way in the beginning. I don't want to just let's focus on the plot now.
Yeah. It's also kind of similar to Stephen King. Stephen King really doesn't have a lot of lines ever. I don't know if he has them ever actually, but he loves to do little cameos in his TV shows, movies, all of that stuff. He was in It Chapter 2. He was a preacher in Pet Sematary. He has all these different things. And then there's also Stan Lee.
Stan Lee. And Stan Lee's cameos were always the best, by the way.
His were really, really
His
funny.
were always absolutely just little corpse were always the star of the show every single time.
As Marion is in the office and she's working with her colleague and they're getting the final details of this sale done for their boss, a man named Mr. Cassidy, played by Frank Albertson, comes in and he's just gloating up about how he's buying property for his daughter who's about to get married and how much money he has.
He's got a cowboy hat. He's kind of dude that looks like he blows his nose with $100 bills for fun.
I think he makes a comment about how they don't have AC in the main office. And he's like, oh, you girls are about to get an upgrade in here because of all the money that I'm about to make your boss.
Yeah. They're talking about a $40,000 payment. He's like, oh, I have cash. And then the business owner's like, oh, cash? And then he kind of whips it out. He was like, I don't carry enough cash on me that I'm not willing to lose.
Yeah, he literally says, I never carry more than I can afford to lose.
Yeah. And then he does a little wink to Marion. It's just kind of like, all right, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that case, Marion, she is trusted with this $40,000 cash. And I want to tell you guys, I did look this up. I know I hate math, but I did look this up to see how much this would be worth today. And with inflation all considered and all of that and the timing, $40,000 back in 1960 would be equivalent to about $436,000 today. So that is a lot of fucking money. I think her boss is like, we need to put this into a safety deposit box immediately. Like, can you go to the bank? And so
but she's looked at as someone that is trusted.
Very trusted.
Very trusted. As a good person.
We find out that she's worked there for like 10 years. Mm. She's very trusted by her boss. Even just the way that she is in her demeanor, she doesn't seem like a troublemaker. Her boss asks her if she can take it to the bank right away. And she then asks her boss if she can go home right after because she's got a little bit of a headache. And again, because she's that like super trusted employee, it just doesn't seem like an issue at all.
No one's going to bat an eye at that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So she decides to impulsively steal the money so that she can run off and be with Sam. She makes it back to her house. By the way, I know I mentioned she lives with her sister. Her sister's out of town for the weekend. So it's kind of like presenting itself with the perfect opportunity. And once she's back at home, she's like impulsively packing. She is really stressed out. You can tell she's like moving really quickly. I love this part because she doesn't say any words, but we see her decision solidify. Mm-hmm. She gets more and more calm with the choice that she's made almost, and she just like solidifies it in silence. There are no words, just action.
But something interesting too is the light and dark aspect that's also being used. In the opening scene, she's got like a white bra and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think her attire going to work is very light, very bright. When she's packing her clothes, she's packing very dark.
Yes,
clothes, very dark colors to kind of show that contrast of trusted and angelic. And then we move on to the black. It's that elimination of purity.
Totally.
In a way. You also kind of see that light and dark too, where she's in sunny Phoenix. Later on in the car when she's driving, it's dark and rainy. And once again, exemplifying that decision has now given her this characteristic.
Real quick. Okay, I have a couple questions before we like finish up this scene and move on. Going back to her being in bed with Sam, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but she was like wearing underwear. They just had a little romp and she's wearing her underwear. How bold was that back then for Hitchcock to open with a couple in bed in 1960? I feel like that was pretty scandalous for the time.
It was. And I think that was another large part of the clash that he had with the studio, because Paramount had a pushback with this opening scene. And they also had a pushback with the shower scene.
Oh,
and they wanted both of them to be reshot. Mm-hmm. And Alfred being Mr. Negotiator, like he did getting this thing even off the ground, he made a deal. He was like, I'll let you pick between the two. If you let me keep the shower scene, I will let any of your studio execs come on set and you can watch us reshoot the opening scene. And they agreed. The thing is, when it came the time that they were actually going to shoot this opening scene, none of the studio execs showed up. So they never filmed anything, and he got to keep both.
Oh, fuck yeah. Good for him.
It was almost like he knew they wouldn't show up. He knew they weren't going to waste their time to actually come down there. And he was bluffing. Yeah, he was almost playing chicken. He was almost calling their bluff.
That's what I was looking for. Like, playing chicken. Do you think it was relatable that she was like an anti-hero from the get-go? Or did you root against her a little bit knowing that she was taking the cash? We just got introduced to this character, so we don't have like a big emotional tie to her just yet. But like, what were your thoughts seeing that, if you can remember like the very first time you saw it?
I'm trying to.
You were a baby, so
it's gonna be too hard to remember like first thought. Like whenever I watch something old, I try and put myself in the position of someone watching it for the first time in like that era. The way that they were kind of establishing Marion as a character, once again, the light colors. Mm-hmm. She's very trusted. I mean, she's obviously a good person. Yeah, but she's desperate. Yeah, and she wants stability and she wants happiness. Lo and behold, this guy comes in who is just throwing money at the wall, who is audibly saying...
And he's very arrogant.
Very arrogant. He's audibly saying out loud, I don't need this money.
Yeah.
He's practically bragging about it. As he's kind of gloating at being a douche, it makes you think, it's like, well, it's a victimless crime now. This is someone that has expressed how bad she needs this money, taking it from a guy who clearly says...
He doesn't need it.
He doesn't care if he loses it.
Yeah.
But you see her character... panic. Was this a bad idea? Did I screw up? Which also kind of makes you root for her, where it's like, this could have just been a really bad decision that some people make.
Totally.
So you still see those good characteristics in her.
I fully agree. When that man, Mr. Cassidy, came in and was just being like arrogant and full of himself, it's almost like well, you know what? You've kind of put the idea in my head. I wasn't going to do this maybe, but the fact that you're being so pompous about it, you are being very cocky. And I mean, I don't know exactly what it was like at the time, but I do feel like just some of the cultural norms, like of him talking to the ladies like that, were kind of inappropriate. He makes these weird, like offhanded comments where it's like, well, fuck you then. I'm going to take your money. You're not going to miss it anyways.
Exactly.
So I feel the same way.
Which it kind of softens the
consequence.
The consequence of it at the end. Does at the end justify the means? It makes you have those questions. If you were in her position, what would you do? Would you be okay with doing this because of the way this guy is? Or would you still kind of be on her end where you're just panicking the entire time because you made such a wild decision?
I love the thought, but I know myself and I would never be able to actually do it.
Exactly. Because you're thinking about the consequences of it.
Exactly.
But that's why you try and relate to these characters that money would solve a lot of people's problems.
But I'm rooting for her.
Right?
I'm like, you go, girl.
You go, girl.
Well, we all want to do that, but you had the balls to do it. So you go, girl.
Pay alimony.
Yeah. Yeah. Go be with Sam. Go right off into the sunset. I love it. So you guys, I mean, you guessed it. She rides off into the sunset. Not with Sam just yet.
Well, I wouldn't call it the sunset. She did head right into a storm.
That's true. That's true. Well, she drives out of town. She's definitely feeling paranoid. She's feeling guilty. And one thing that I love that they put in this scene of her driving out of her little city, as she's at a stoplight, you can tell she almost feels kind of like she's not feeling super, super guilty just yet. But then she sees her boss walk across the crosswalk in front of her car with Mr. Cassidy. And her boss kind of gives like a double take. And I think that's the moment that she's like, oh, fuck, this is actually kind of real. And I told my boss I was going to be home with a headache. He has now seen me. He has no idea what I'm doing. If that were me, I'd be freaking the fuck out. And I'd go straight to the bank. I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, I just made a quick pit stop. But like, don't worry, I deposited it, like whatever. But lo and behold, she continues. And eventually she pulls over at some point because she gets really, really tired. So she pulls over to sleep. A patrol officer eventually comes to her car and questions her about her whereabouts. What were you doing? And he asks to see her license. She reluctantly gives it to him. And once he gives it back to her, she quickly leaves, but she's still super scared that he might be onto her because I'm not going to lie, she wasn't really selling it. She could have been way more cool and probably would have been totally fine. But the way she was acting was very defensive.
I would say all credit to Janet Leigh's acting abilities because she was really good at pretending to be a bad actress. Yeah. That's when you know they're a good actress, when they really sell being able to be bad.
Totally.
She was a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
The cop was obviously kind of a douche.
For sure.
But she wasn't really helping her case.
He kind of lets her go, but there's this feeling of like, I'm kind of onto you. I just don't know what you've done yet. She keeps driving. She pulls over into the town of Bakersfield, California, and she stops over into this used car lot and she wants to trade in her car. And she wants to do this because she wants to cover her tracks. She has an Arizona license plate, obviously, too. So that can cause a little bit of a flag if she were to be pulled over by another cop. But her whole interaction the entire time with the salesman of the used car dealership and everything is just so funny because it's so clear she's so nervous and in such a rush. And it may be the fastest car sale transaction I've ever seen in my life. But something that is happening while she is talking with the salesman is that the cop has found her and is parked across the street, and he's sort of just watching her movements as she is navigating through the dealership. And she sees him too. She's clocked him. He's not being conspicuous.
No, he literally got out of his car and then just leaned against it, staring at her. And then she wasn't helping her case either with the salesman because the salesman's like, oh, I've never had the client pressure the salesman before. She was just trying to get the hell out of Dodge.
One other thing, I don't know if you caught this, that he says is he goes, oh, what kind of trouble are you bringing me today? Or something like that. And she's like, what? Kind of gets freaked out. And he's like, first sale of the day always brings trouble.
He wasn't wrong.
He was not wrong.
He wasn't wrong. That is a very accurate statement.
The cop ends up rolling into the dealership, but before he can really stop her, because he doesn't really have anything to stop her really, she just zips off in her new car before he can question her any further.
But she almost left without the money.
Oh, yeah.
She left
Oh,
all of her
yes.
belongings in the other car. She almost took off without it.
Yeah, and the salesman was like, bro.
It was like, oh, you forgot this. Like, you literally almost left everything behind.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But as she drives away, you can tell that her paranoia is causing her to think about the conversations to the cop and the salesperson. She must be just reliving these like conversations in her head to like almost make herself calm down a little bit. Like she's just replaying it all. And she's also replaying some of her conversations with her boss and her colleague back at work. And we like hear this in like a voiceover.
It's like an inner monologue.
Yeah, as she's driving. And oh my God. You can just tell like the paranoia is getting to her. She hasn't fully thought this plan through, but she's still going. She is still going.
It was a lot of guilt
Yes.
thoughts. And then it was a lot of scenarios of her justifying.
That's true.
I think it was something Mr. Cassidy was saying like in her head. And it was once again justifying her decision. So it was a very pull back and forth. She wasn't in regret yet.
Yeah.
There's that. It was in there, but she still kept justifying why she did it.
But not quite. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, does this feel kind of like a Breaking Bad moment a little bit? Almost like an ordinary person slipping into crime?
We are currently in season 1
Yeah.
of Breaking Bad, where his
gears are turning.
He is all chemist.
Yeah.
He is still a bad actor, and we are very close to her shaving her head and blowing people up.
Yeah.
We're almost there.
Almost there.
Yes.
Almost there.
Yeah.
Just keep watching.
Yeah, we'll get to season 2 pretty soon. That's when it really gets good.
Were you scared for her with the cop in the sunglasses?
But the thing was
he menacing or was he just doing his job?
He was kind of a goofball. It was almost like, she had a bad poker face, but then he also wasn't very discreet at all.
He didn't really make it better.
No, not at all. Especially with the showing up. It's cool you found her, but it's like, man, you ever been on a stakeout before? But then he pulls in as she's pulling away and then just let it happen.
Yeah.
It's like, brother, well, like, what are your intentions, sir?
Totally. What are your intentions? Later, while driving, a fierce rainstorm forces Marion off the highway where she spots the glowing Bates Motel sign. P.S. Spirit Halloween has a Bates Motel sign, and it's
Pretty dope.
actually really fucking good. And
Pretty cool.
Can we get that for our office?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Okay.
No vacancy.
We're going to get that. But when she goes to try to check in, no one is at the office, but she does see a woman up in the window of the house behind the motel. The way that it's set up is this one-level motel. I think it's got 12 cabins or something. And then there's some stairs. And then it leads up to this beautiful, like, Victorian house, kind of like a house on a mini hill. And so it's very clear, like, okay, whoever is the owner of this place probably lives up in that house.
This set is still at Universal Studios, by the way, which is pretty cool.
It's so
the house
cool.
and everything. It is a little weird if you've ever been there during Hollywood Horror Nights. They do haunts literally like around the Bates Motel.
Yeah.
It's kind of a trip.
It is.
It's kind of like you're literally walking through an iconic set.
Well, and on the tram too, they have a little thing where it's like Norman Bates like comes out, the character, and it's like a little
They changed it up a little bit. It used to be like when I was younger, the character actor be Norman coming out of room 1 carrying like a mannequin,
wrapped body.
like a wrapped body, putting it in the back of the car.
Oh shit.
And then when the tram stopped, he sees you and then he pulls out a knife out of his jacket and like runs after it.
What do they do now?
He's now just standing up at the house. So it's quick and easy, but less.
I want them to go back.
Less walking.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably tiring a little bit. After honking her horn, Norman Bates comes to greet her. He is polite, shy, a little bit awkward, and he's chatting with her, and he talks with her about getting her set up in room number 1. Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins, who is, by the way, the father of Oz Perkins, who is a big up-and-coming horror director. Anyway, so Norman, he's like, let me know if you need anything. He's being very, very hospitable towards her. And he invites her to his house after she is done getting settled to have some food because she talks about how she's like very hungry. She just wants to like eat and go to sleep. When he leaves her room after kind of showing her where she's going to be staying and everything, Marion is unpacking and she's trying to find a place to hide her money. And she kind of picks a very weird spot. She has a newspaper and she decides to stash the envelope that's carrying all of the cash with the newspaper wrapped around it. Not the worst place ever, maybe.
It's just kind of like...
It's inconspicuous.
Yeah.
But it is...
in plain sight.
But it's not safe. I would not feel good knowing that that was just floating around.
Basically, she's a bad thief.
She's a bad thief. Yeah. And while in her room, she can hear what sort of sounds like some arguing happening. And I think she deduces that the arguing is happening between Norman and his mother. And his mother is pretty adamant that she does not want Marion coming into their house to eat their food. And the way that she's saying she doesn't want Marion in there is almost like she is a hussy and we don't need like this woman coming in here. She's not going to be eating food in my house. Like she's not welcome. Which, very weird. And I would be freaked out if that were me. Eventually, though, Norman comes back and he says, want to have some sandwiches together, like in my parlor. Marion kind of questions him a little bit about his mom. I think she says like, oh, is everything okay? Like, I didn't mean to get you into any trouble, but he kind of like shoos it off. And so they go and have some sandwiches in the motel parlor. Norman and her have a conversation. And one thing that she notices immediately is that there's a lot of taxidermy in his parlor, and it's primarily of birds. And he opens up about his taxidermy. He opens up a little bit about his loneliness and his overbearing mother. So he's really kind of letting it all out there with her. He says to her...
But it almost gives the impression that they don't get a lot of patrons.
Yes.
It almost seems like they haven't had one in a while.
Well, I think he does mention at one point that with the update that they made to the highway, they really only get people that maybe have made a wrong turn or have exited on accident.
Where in its heyday, the highway used to be the street going along it. And since then, it's pulled everyone away from it. So the hotel has kind of been
they don't have a ton of traffic. But one thing he says to her as she's eating like a sandwich, and I kind of mentioned it at the top of the podcast, is he says, "You eat like a bird." And then she goes, "You'd know." And he goes, "Well, not really." It's like such a weird little like exchange, but it just tells you like a lot about his mind. And he's such an interesting guy. As they're talking to, he also says another line when he talks about his mother, and he says, a boy's best friend is his mother. And this is delivered with such a mix of like sweetness and creepiness. It's just weird. And then he's also asking her simultaneously if she's going somewhere or if she's running away from something, almost like he knows that she's in a bit of trouble, but he's not going to dig too deep and ask her about it. But that's almost more unsettling that he doesn't want to ask her about it, you know?
Anthony Perkins also delivered this in a really good way. I just kind of felt like his mannerisms and just the way he delivered his words, he comes off very trusting.
Yeah,
you know, he seems like he wouldn't hurt a fly. It makes Marion almost feel still a little comfortable going in this back room, regardless of the 1,000 birds around her head.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
You know,
totally.
And then it kind of starts this feeling bad for Norman. We're kind of getting this impression now that his mother is like almost verbally abusive.
Yeah.
And he's just this sweet guy that just wants to stuff birds and eat sandwiches.
But one thing that they talk about in regards to Norman's mother is they talk about how Norman's mother raised him all by herself, and how she then met a man years later who talked her into buying the motel, but then he ended up dying too. He says, my mother is sick, but he doesn't really say what she's like sick with. And he says, a son is a poor substitute for a lover. Very interesting.
That's, interesting is a word I would use.
He also says that there's no way that he can leave because no one would be there to look after his mother. And he says, I hate what she's become. I hate the illness. But again, we don't get clarity into like, what illness? And obviously Norman's mother doesn't come and meet them as they're eating sandwiches. So Marion really she only has like his word into his relationship with his mother. This entire conversation is just the best sign of Norman's craziness. And you can just see his mind truly believing the things that he's saying. And he says at one point too, Marion says something at one point where she's like, oh, like you're mad. And he's like, well, you know, we all go a little mad sometimes. And if you guys...
Iconic.
It's iconic. It also was used again in the iconic first Scream film. So there's also that.
But that was also a little meta because in Scream, he was actually quoting Psycho.
Yeah. And he was fucking mad.
And his last name was Loomis. Crazy.
Hey. But yeah, so it's like she has this really crazy talk with Norman. And then once he leaves, there's a brief moment where Marion, you can tell she's like in her mind deciding that she wants to return the money. She says, I think to him, like, I think I'm going to go back home. This suggests that Norman's vulnerability sparked her conscience a little bit. And that she said, after talking to this guy, like, I kind of have my heart set. I think I'm going to make it back.
Learning about him and his situation made her think, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Regardless of his situation, regardless of how much or how his mother treats him, he still loves her, regardless of what they have. And he's still living around his life. He still loves her and he seems happy.
Yep, totally.
So that kind of just put in her head. She was like, maybe I don't really need this money if I still want to be happy with Sam somehow.
Exactly.
But also that's what kind of flips this film on its head. At the very beginning, she stole this money for love. She stole this money because she wanted to have a happy, stable life with Sam. Therefore, she was able to justify stealing the money. But at the end of the day, with all of the panic and everything like that, that past mistake has now crushed her. And she has obviously been in an absolute panic ever since, and she hasn't felt happy. Even though she's had this money, she hasn't felt stable.
Yeah.
And then after that conversation with Norman, she kind of realized, she was like, even with the money, I'm never going to feel happy. I'm never going to feel stable.
Totally. Speaking of Norman, what were your first impressions of him? Like, were you, even to this day, I guess, when you see him acting on screen in this film, are you charmed? Are you like creeped out? Are you both?
And that's what I think why Anthony Perkins, like I was saying, did such a good job. It's you truly feel for him. He kind of like how we saw Marion in the beginning. You trust him. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah, you're like, even though this guy's kind of weird, it doesn't mean he's a bad person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He likes to stuff birds every now and then, but we stuff birds on turkey. It's fine.
We all. Yeah.
We stuff birds on Thanksgiving. It's fine.
We stuff birds on turkey. I'm kind of laughing a tiny bit because we've been sort of talking about how Norman's probably harmless. Or like, he's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. So this next scene, not such a good guy. When Marion returns back to her room, we see that as soon as she's like getting settled, that Norman has a secret peephole that is hiding behind a painting in his parlor that looks directly into cabin number 1, which is Marion's room.
Looks directly into the bathroom, looks directly into the shower. God damn it, Norman.
God damn it, Norman.
Here, I'm talking this dude up like, oh, what a good guy. Oh, my God. What a victim. Oh, man. I feel bad for him. And then suddenly they're like, oh, he's got a peephole.
Yep. And of course, he watches her sort of like undress and she changes into a robe.
But also, can we talk about that shot too? This little tiny bead of light on like his eyeball. So good.
So spooky. Then he stops watching her for a moment and he makes his way back up to his house. Marion, on the other hand, she is in her robe and she's like writing a note and she is doing some quick math. Speaking of math again, she is doing math on how much money she's borrowed because she used cash to trade in her used car and then buy a new one. As she's writing this note, you think, oh shit, okay, she's like making a note and a ledger of what she borrowed so that when she returns the money, she can be honest and say, hey, I did spend some of this money. This is what I owe you, yada, yada. But then she rips up her note with all the math on it and she takes it to the toilet in the bathroom and flushes it. And a fun fact here is that this is the first time a toilet being flushed was ever shown on a screen in the US.
There was apparently some very old FCC rule that pretty much stated that you couldn't show a toilet or toilet flushing.
So risque.
Obviously, this movie kind of forced that to change, but what's funny is this idea came to the writer of Psycho, Joseph Stefano. He approached Hitchcock about it like, hey, what are the odds we could get a flushing toilet in this? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Wouldn't that be so crazy?
And Hitchcock was like, yeah, sure, I'm down. If you can find a way to fit a flushing toilet into the script somehow. Almost like calling his bluff, like, yeah, okay, yeah, like, figure that out.
You can do this, yeah.
And then he comes back with the perfect way that someone would need to flush something, and that is to destroy evidence.
And he freaking does it. Crazy. After she flushes this note down the toilet, she decides to shower. And this is a very symbolic moment for many reasons, but it starts out, it just gives you this cleansing reset moment for a hot second. Even though she did just flush down that note down the toilet, it feels like she's still trying to like wash off her bad choices, you know, and her like mistakes. And
yeah, it like starts off with like the water on her head. So then like her face, it's almost like, yeah, like you're
just
saying,
all coming down.
Cleansing what she thinks all of her bad choices were.
As she is showering, the curtain is yanked open by a shadowy figure who we saw kind of walking towards her from the perspective of inside the shower for a hot second. And this appears to be a woman. It appears to be maybe Norman's mother, just with some context clues of what we know about her so far.
But it's just a silhouette.
It's just a silhouette. And a fun fact about this is that the person playing the mother in this scene was actually a woman with a completely painted black face so that it stayed as a shadow, which is like super interesting.
And what's funny is, so there's a Alfred Hitchcock biopic with Anthony Hopkins, and it's just about the making of Psycho.
Yeah.
When they kind of go over that scene, it's some lady with a completely painted black face, so it stays in the shadows the entire time.
Crazy. I feel like they just didn't want any hint that it's any... They still wanted the character to be kind of vague.
Very ambiguous.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in this scene, Marion is brutally stabbed by the woman, and Hitchcock cuts really quickly, never really shows the knife penetrate, but we just hear the sound and the shrieking of Marion screaming with the violin of the score, and it is very intense. And eventually, after a few stabbings, Marion collapses and the shot just lingers on like the drain. And there's a moment where she grabs the curtain of the shower and she's trying to use it for like stability because she doesn't want to completely collapse on the floor. But unfortunately, it comes off the rings and you see this close shot of it coming undone from each ring. And then she falls to the floor. And then we get this like pause shot for a second where it's just on like her lifeless face. Her eye is just like staring into oblivion.
This scene is obviously the most iconic out of the entire film.
So iconic.
It's, if anyone knows anything about Psycho, it's this scene. And what makes this scene as good as it is, those quick cuts. And you have to imagine back in the film day, it wasn't digital. They're cutting actual film.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And that they managed to do 60 different shots in a 45-second scene. Just as quick as you can.
Yeah.
And like one reason, they couldn't show a naked body or anything like that.
Yep.
And two, it kind of really intensified it. And then another thing that really brought it all together was the score. And originally when they shot this scene, Hitchcock assumed and wanted it to be completely silent. We would only hear the sound effects because obviously that silence is golden when it comes to films to keep it jarring. And the composer, once again, Bernard Herrmann, he did the score anyway. So he got a cut of the film, and then that's when he did the score. So he added his own overlay on it regardless, and that's what really brought it together, and that's what made it even more terrifying.
Spooky.
And that's, I think, a huge reason why it still gives us a chill watching it after all these years.
Yeah. This was also like an example of a technique that Hitchcock described as quote unquote transferring the menace from the screen into the mind of the audience, which like effective. And
it was another thing that just wasn't being done.
Yeah.
So like you also try to imagine what it was like seeing this in theaters. It's so fast.
For sure.
And so quick. You have a split second to even process what's going on.
Yeah.
They've already moved on to something else.
Does this still hit as hard today, or has horror like desensitized us? This is a question I wrote down that I wanted us to discuss because I was thinking about it from the frame of mind of there are a lot of movies that are way worse than this in terms of gore, violence, subject matter. I mean, let's just even throw like Terrifier out there, for instance. Like that is known as one of the goriest, most mainstream films that are out right now. To me, this scene like still hits hard. And I think it almost is because it has that lack of like you don't see everything that's going on. So almost like your imagination is imagining what it's all looking like happening. And maybe because we've seen so many horror films, my imagination's probably like really crazy. And like I'm thinking about like my imagination is almost scarier than maybe what could have been revealed on film. I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of layers to this scene that made it extremely effective to the audience, regardless of the graphic nature, because Hitchcock teetered what he was able to get away with.
He toed the line for sure.
This was the bare minimum, like what he was able to get away with, which is something that people weren't seeing a lot is deaths and things like that on screen. A lot of people weren't seeing a woman's naked body on screen.
And it was such a vulnerable place like the shower.
Exactly. Let's be honest with a lot of dudes back then, it was creating a desire they weren't used to seeing.
Totally.
But it was also throwing death in their face. So it was, a juxtaposition of these two things combating each other.
At the same time, yeah. Totally.
And it had such a large effect on the world of cinema because if any scene is getting broken down in in Psycho. It's this one.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it has been torn apart.
And it was so experimental for the time. Like, and then can I move on to another point I have about this scene? Another thing is, and I've been waiting to talk about this, is that we are, God, I don't know what the timestamp is exactly, but I think we're like 30 minutes into the film, maybe. And our fucking main actress has died.
That's another part. It happens so fast. No one's expecting this to happen. She's on the cover of the poster. We're assuming that the way the story's going to go is she's going to take the money back, and then she's going to have to deal with the backlash of all of this. And she was taken away from us.
Yep.
Even look at Drew Barrymore in Scream. They did the same thing.
Exactly.
It's effective.
Yeah.
But it has to be tight-lipped.
Imagine seeing that, though, in 1960 when you thought like Marion was going to be the star.
You're like, where do we go from here?
Like, oh my God. Psycho sort of really led the way and pioneered the way for this type of filmmaking. And what do we call it?
A MacGuffin.
A MacGuffin.
Because now you're like, so what you think this movie is about is this woman stealing money and the repercussions of her stealing said money. And we're just thinking Norman's just a side character.
Wait, can we pause real quick? Can we tell everyone what a MacGuffin is?
Okay. So a MacGuffin I forgot who coined it specifically, but it was in literature. But it means that it's an object in a story that is meant to merely drive the plot forward.
Yeah.
We think that this is such a big deal. This money is going to drive the entire plot. It's a strategy to twist the story and twist the plot to make the audience think it's about one thing, but making it about something completely different. It's like a magic trick.
Totally.
Hitchcock's kind of the one that popularized it. Because once again, this was all experimental. Nobody was doing any of this stuff. It was a crazy move. But because of that story flip and where the audience is in that moment, I would say in regards to the shower scene specifically, like the quick shots was gnarly. But I would say the most impactful shot was that zoom out on her eye. Because leading up to this moment, we think that the money isn't going to work out. But we obviously know how movies work. There's going to be a happy ending. She's still going to figure it out with Sam somehow. But with the kill, with her laying on the ground with just that eye, Marion's death means that her pursuit of love and stability is over.
Yeah.
Now we're like, what is this about? And the thing is, nobody within the film knows about her change of heart. Nobody knows that she actually planned to give it away because she destroyed the evidence that showed that she was most likely going to try and bring it back. And she died with that mistake.
God. Frickin' Marion.
And I think that is also the biggest reason why Hitchcock wanted people to be in theaters in the beginning.
Yep.
They wanted us to be with the character the entire time, which made that kill so impactful and so gnarly because you're rooting for her. You're rooting for her to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then it's just taken away from you.
And then bye.
And then we're like, cool, now it's about this guy.
Yeah. Literally at this point in the film, you're like, what the fuck is going to happen next? Where are we going from here?
Who else is mom going to kill?
God damn it.
Bitch.
Damn it.
Fucking Norma.
After seeing his mother come back into the house, Norman frantically discovers the scene of Marion and her body, and it's really graphic to him, and it definitely like jars him. He's in complete shock, and he doesn't even turn the shower off. He just goes almost immediately into panic mode, and then what am I going to do next? And from this point, he actually steps outside for a moment to like figure out what he's going to do.
Almost like this has happened before.
Yeah, almost, huh? Next order of operations here is that he decides to clean up what just happened. So it's like he's going to clean up after his mother's mess. So he wraps Marion, her body, in the shower curtain. He hides the money kind of unknowingly. He puts her and all of her stuff into the trunk of the car that she had bought and the one that she drove like to the motel. Pretty dramatically, he takes the car into a nearby little like lagoon swamp area, and he sinks the car with Marion in the trunk and also the money in the trunk. He didn't know about the money.
And I believe it's the same lagoon from Creature of the Black Lagoon.
I think it is.
The little lagoon in the back lot at Universal.
I think it's still at Universal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is what I've heard. So cool. It's kind of a funny scene because at first the car does not sink all the way. It like almost stops at a point where the trunk is just sticking out like ever so slightly, but it's still obvious like, oh my God, there's a car in the swamp.
It's funny because he's like frantically chewing gum or something and like watching it go down. And then it's the second the car stops, he stops chewing gum, just stares at it looks around and it's like you're almost panicking with him.
You are. Yeah, you're like, oh shit, he's not gonna be able to hide this. And then you're like, wait, I'm not trying to side with the bad guy here. But then, as we all know, the car does end up going like completely under, so everything is fine. But it is an unbearably tense like moment. And Norman for sure panics. But then all of a sudden, we are now changing settings. And we are now with Mr. Sam from the beginning of the film, Marion's lover. And we are at Sam's office in his hardware store. And Marion's sister, who we are introduced to in this scene, she shows up to talk with Sam about where Marion might be. And by the way, they have never met before. So props to her sister, Lila, because she is like, you know what, I'm going to figure out where my sister is, finds out where Sam works in this like hardware shop. By the way, I do not think that Marion and Sam live anywhere near each other.
Because I think he lives in California.
Yeah, because I think Sam had to fly in order to see her when they were in Phoenix.
So I think she traveled all the way. Like you couldn't just send DMs back then.
No, you couldn't. You had to like go or like snail mail. That's it. And so she explains to Sam, she's like, hey, so Marion left home on Friday after work, after she got this large deposit of cash from her boss, and no one has heard from her since. At first, she's kind of like, where is she? Like, she's got to be with you. You guys are probably like up to something, like what's going on? But then I think she quickly realizes Sam actually has no idea what Marion is up to either. And while they're talking, then another character is introduced. And this is private investigator Arbogast. And he barges into this hardware shop where Lila and Sam are talking. And he wants to talk about Marion as well. He's like, hey, you guys are talking about that? I'm also wanting to talk about that. Let's do it.
It sounds like we all want the same thing.
We all want the same thing. And his biggest concern, though, is actually not with Marion. It is with the missing $40,000. He has been hired by Mr. Cassidy to figure out where that money went.
So that it's almost as if the cops aren't aware yet.
I think they even ask him at one point, they're like, why are you here and like not the cops? And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not a cop. I'm here just to find the money. Marion's boss has actually no interest in charging her with anything as long as she can just like return the cash. This just feels like an out of character thing that she did, and she just needs to like fess up to it.
Which is even more kind of a gut punch because she was going to get out of it then.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to write it up as
She had a chance.
Yeah.
She literally, no one gets chances like this to right a wrong that they've done. And she, it's just so sad because she totally like unknowingly had a chance. And I wonder what that film would have been like, right? Where Marion just drove herself back, turned herself in, didn't get in trouble or at least too much trouble for the money. Like, what would that have been like?
Not as good of a movie.
Wouldn't have been a movie, probably.
Wouldn't have been a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But as this whole conversation is happening, like Sam and Lila, they're both just like, hey, we truly have no idea what happened to Marion. We are also on the hunt for her. And what do you know? Because maybe we can compare information here and try to like figure everything out. Arbogast then sort of stops talking to Sam and Lila, and he's like, okay, I'm going to just move on and I'm going to ask around town and see what I can find. And there's this moment in the film where he's talking to several different people around town, and all of a sudden he ends up at the Bates Motel, and he is trying to, I think, retrace Marion's steps. He actually doesn't know for sure that she even checked into the Bates Motel, but it just seems like the most likely place just based on some of her like last known locations.
Something that's funny is Norman's sitting on his little deck or porch or whatever, eating a giant bag of candy corn.
Oh, yes.
And this was apparently Anthony Perkins' like idea. Hitchcock gave them the freedom to create their own backstories for their characters, kind of like picking little things, like what's kind of like little things that they would like. And then
little traits.
Yeah. And then Anthony Perkins was like, I think Norman Bates would love candy corn. But
I could say that.
I'm just like, I don't know what that says about people that like candy corn. You know, if Anthony
who loves candy corn?
Me. I love candy corn. I love candy corn.
Guys,
so
if I
much.
show up missing, you know who to call. Or you know who to send Arbogast to.
But like, what does that say? Anthony Perkins is like, I think this psychopath loves candy corn. Mm-hmm. I've been told I'm crazy for liking candy corn my whole life. I'm starting to get it.
I think Allie likes candy corn too.
I like eating it by color.
No wonder I love both of you so much, because you guys are both candy corn fiends.
I don't like the candy corn where only two colors went through.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Where it's missing like the white top. I like eating it color by color.
Because it's been through some shit.
Yeah. It's just not complete. It's just doesn't scratch that itch.
Yeah. Well, okay, guys, you heard it here first. Well, so Arbogast ends up finding Norman, after he's eaten his candy corn, and he questions Norman.
Completely normal.
Completely normal Norman. And he questions Norman, who is obviously nervous. Poor Norman is like, I say poor Norman, but it's like, fuck, he's like a bad guy.
But it's like in this moment, you think he's just, if we put aside the peak hole thing, if we just eliminate that from our memory somehow, in this moment, you think that he is just trying to protect his mother. He's going to great lengths, kind of like Marion did with the money. She stole the money for love. He's essentially protecting his terrifying mother.
That's true.
Out of love.
Yeah, that's true. He's like talking to Arbogast and he is stammering. He's contradicting himself. If that were me, I'd be like, bitch, that you are fucking guilty.
Yeah, him and Marion do not have a poker face.
No,
neither of them can get away with jack shit.
They do not do a good job. And he also slips up even a couple of times, like telling the investigator at one point that he hasn't had guests in a couple of weeks. But then he talks about a couple that stopped at the motel and asked some questions. And he's like, wait, I thought you haven't talked to anybody for a couple of weeks. So Arbogast is 100% catching him in these little like kind of white lies.
It's a great investigator.
Oh, yeah.
Top tier investigator.
And he senses like something's off. Also, sorry if you guys hear Cowboy's tippy tappies. I'm giving him some loveys right now on the side while we're recording this. But Arbogast suspects that something is off. And he's like, okay, I want to like check out more of the cabins. But he like keeps talking to Norman. And while he's talking to Norman, he then also notices that someone is sitting up in the window in the house. And he asks Norman about this person. And Norman tells him, hey, that's my mother, whatever. But he refuses to let Arbogast talk to his mother. So Arbogast, he drives like off the property to give the illusion that he's like fully left, but actually just drives to a nearby payphone and he phones Lila, so Marion's sister, and he tells her, he's like, hey, I believe that Marion was actually at this motel that I'm at and it's off the old highway. I'm talking to the owner of it and something fishy just kind of feels like off. I'm going to come back to you and Sam and I'll be back probably in less than an hour. And then we can all talk about what I've discovered so far. And we can talk about like our next course of action, essentially. Then after the phone call, Arbogast then goes back to the motel and without Norman really knowing, it's not like he's like purposely sneaking around Norman, but he just doesn't find Norman. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go and just like explore by myself. He goes and he sneaks into the Bates house. It's this beautiful Victorian house. Like we've talked about this. It's very large, especially for just like Norman and his mother. And it's like very meticulously decorated. Like it's in like pretty good shape. It's not like a pigsty by any means.
It's still spooky.
It's spooky.
It's still spooky.
But it's still like beautiful. It has that beautiful like charm of, this might be like a lame comparison, but it's like this, it gives me the same vibes of, in Casper when like Christina Ricci and Bill Pullman like moved to this house that their house was like pretty dusty, but it had like a lot of charm to it still and a lot of beautiful antiques to it. Like it wasn't necessarily a pigsty. It was just old. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what this house is like giving me a little bit. Arbogast goes inside and he immediately is like looking around. And as he ascends the stairs, because he wants to go and see like what's up there, Mother rushes out and she slashes his face with a knife. He stumbles down the stairs in like a very disorienting, surreal shot before being completely finished off. And all I can say is that Arbogast is not back within the hour to Lila and Sam. So again, we don't really see like the full mother.
It's the silhouette again.
It's a silhouette, just
all
like
you
the
see
shower.
Is the silhouette, and all you see is you see gray hair, and you kind of
like
see like a dress, like
yeah.
a muumuu or something.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of like that same like shadow. But like that shot's kind of funny too of him going down the stairs. I learned this when I was a kid at the Universal Studios special effects show, where they talk about all the different types of special effects over the years. And they talked about this one where it was literally Martin Balsam, who plays Arbogast. They got a shot on a dolly going down the stairs. So they projected it behind him. He's literally sitting down, just flailing his arms. And just to make it look like he's falling down the stairs. Down the stairs. And like, that's one of those things where it's like, that. Obviously budgets.
Did that kill like surprise you or like did you see it coming?
You knew something was coming, You know there's nothing good in that house
Yeah.
after what's going on. I think in that moment, you're probably expecting to see Mother. You're expecting to see something, but then you're just hit with that same silhouette. You also think, because you kind of just saw Norman downstairs.
Totally.
You
Yeah.
kind of think, well, there's his alibi.
Yeah, true.
There's
Yeah.
no way he's a sneaky little fucker, you know? Like,
Yeah.
no way, no how. But yeah, it kind of does. You don't expect another one to happen so fast.
I think the way that he died surprised me, but not that he was going to die, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, totally.
I was like, I know this guy's going to get fucked up, whether it's by Norman or his mother, quote unquote. But like him falling down the stairs, I was like, oh shit. It also, this felt to me like this scene inspired when Meryl Streep fell down the stairs in Death Becomes Her.
That 3-minute long stair fall. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of the same thing.
And maybe a lot of stair falls to come after this.
It's crazy that those stairs had about
I loved
300
it.
steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I loved it. I thought it was so dramatic. It gave me, I'm sure you've seen Vertigo too, which is like another like Alfred Hitchcock film. And Alfred Hitchcock experimented a ton in Vertigo with camera tricks and like camera angles to like really elicit that same quote unquote Vertigo feeling with audiences. I loved how this was shot. I just thought it was like fantastic.
I always did feel like the slash across the face was a little weird.
Yeah, it was a little like you kind of didn't need to do that, maybe.
But it's like there's only so many things you could do. It was like a push would have been fine. I feel like they wanted to add more, but they obviously were limited.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I got the point across. He did.
Yeah.
He ain't come back.
He ain't come back. Then back with Sam and Lila, they're super concerned because it's now been about 3 hours since Arbogast said that he was going to be back. And Sam isn't as concerned as Lila. Like, she's definitely the one that's like, Sam, like, he said he'd be here within the hour. He's not here. If he would have found something, I feel like he would have called. And Sam is trying to just be like, oh, benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he's fine, blah, blah, blah. But after talking about it a little bit more, Sam is like, I will go and I will look for Arbogast, but you have to stay.
Bad idea. Always a bad idea. Always a bad idea.
Always go together.
Oh,
buddy system.
Yeah. It's just like, it never, I'll be right back. That's never, no.
No, you never say it.
Yes.
What did Randy say in Scream? You never say, I'll be right back. In this case, Sam actually did come back, but
which is good.
yeah, that's good. Sam did show up at the Bates Motel looking for Arbogast, but does not find him. So he comes back to the hardware shop and he kind of like debriefs with Lila. She still thinks it's super strange that he's gone. And she's like, hey, especially if he's not at the motel anymore, he would have called or he would have come back by now. So I think at this point, Sam is kind of like, okay, I'll take this a little bit more seriously. And so they both decide to go directly to the sheriff about their concerns.
And I would say this is another scene that Hitchcock hated that was kind of pushed upon him.
Really?
Because so basically...
I mean, it wasn't really needed, if we're being honest.
That was also a point. Pretty much the studio wanted the police to be involved. They wanted them to tell the police at some point because they imagine anyone actually in this situation, they want to promote going to the police.
Okay.
But then obviously the sheriff was not helpful.
Yeah, they go to his house and they're like... Sheriff Chambers, here's all the info we have. We've pretty much concluded something strange is going on at the Bates Motel and that they're suspicious of Norman and his mother. They push the sheriff to like at least call Norman and get some info from him themselves. Can you at least just like talk to the guy? Whatever. The sheriff calls Norman. Norman tells the sheriff that Arbogast only came and went. And then after getting off the call, Sheriff Chambers is like, hey, tell me again about what's going on. Talk to me. And they say, we've heard about like Norman's mother. He's like, oh, well, Norman's mother has been dead for over a decade and she's buried in a nearby cemetery. Like the sheriff and his wife both say that. It's actually the only murder-suicide that we have on record in our town. And basically what happened was that Norman ended up killing not only his mother, but his mother's lover and like pinning it on a murder-suicide situation between the two of them. I think the sheriff's wife says, if that woman in the window is Norman's mother, then who's buried in the cemetery? I'm like, oh, that just like gives me like chills up my spine, you know? Then back at the motel, we hear a conversation between Norman and his mother where he asks if he can put her in the fruit cellar for a few days so that no one finds her because he's getting kind of freaked out with all the activity that they've had at the motel. He's almost anticipating that more people are going to come because not only is there Marion, Arbogast has come, who's a private investigator. Norman's not dumb. He's like, okay, some people are going to come. Mom, I need to make sure that you were like hidden in the fruit cellar, because he doesn't say it explicitly, but as the viewer, we're like, okay, something weird's going on with the mother. There's a reason she needs to be hid in the cellar.
There's a reason why you haven't seen her face. But it's also like he's trying to protect her.
Mm-hmm. And like, yeah. And she even says, you hid me there once and you'll never do it again. What does that mean? I have questions. A lot of questions. Norman takes her down to the cellar anyways. So we see Norman holding his mother, and again in another aerial shot, like an overhead shot, and he's walking down the stairs, he's taking her into the cellar. It's kind of strange. You're like, okay, I'm seeing this happen, but why? But then the next day, Sam and Lila visit the sheriff and his wife after they get out of church because they're still concerned about what's going on and they do not feel like they have gotten the answers that they deserved. The sheriff says, I actually went and questioned Norman myself before church and I didn't find anything unusual and I didn't see Norman's mother. Hence why Norman was obviously, it was good for him to be prepared and to take his mom down to the cellar because I guess didn't cause any questions for the sheriff. But Lila is still unsatisfied and she's like, I want to go there myself. And so her and Sam kind of talk like outside of the comfort of talking to like the sheriff and his wife. I want to just go and like see for myself. And then that's actually where we get into like our next scene and how we kind of start closing the film a little bit. But before we get there, were you like itching for someone to just like barge into that house already and really just like kind of call Norman out on his shit? Marion is not the only person that has died there on the property.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, you can almost guarantee something like this has happened
many times probably.
And it wasn't mother, it was Patricia.
It was Patricia. It's that whole like just small town shit. Like we just watched The Strangers and the whole premise is that it's this small town and people don't fucking question when people go missing. It's so frustrating, but I love it as the viewer. It's purposeful, right? By the filmmaking crew. Like it's purposeful. They want you to be upset. They want you to be yelling at the screen, wanting something to happen, wanting to make the decisions that we're not seeing the characters make on screen. So it's such an interesting like position to be in. So Lila and Sam then make their way to the Bates Motel, and they say that they're going to act like husband and wife. They just want to kind of throw Norman off their trail a little bit. They do not want to question Norman about Marion because they don't want to be obvious. There's already been a few people there that are questioning him. They want to be able to go and be able to kind of use the guise of their cover as a way to be able to investigate in peace, like so to speak. They go and they're like, we're going to search the entire place, what have you. And Norman comes out, meets them, checks them in, just like he does with all of his other patrons. And Norman finds it a little bit strange that they don't have any bags. You can kind of tell in the way that he's just interacting with them that he's got a little bit of an inkling that something seems to be a little strange. Lila actually tells Sam, like, we need to figure out a way to search the room that she was in because, of course, Norman doesn't set them up in the same cabin that Marion was in. Lila is also concerned that maybe it's possible that Norman found out that she had money and that might have been like his motive for doing what he did.
Nope, the money's gone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, which is crazy because as the viewer, we're watching it and we know that Norman actually never found the money. Later on, as they're all checked in and whatnot, and Norman seems to be like doing his own thing, they are checking out cabin number 1. And Lila finds a little piece of that ripped up paper from earlier that Marion was writing on. This like totally convinces her that Marion was there. And Lila's also very convinced that the old woman, Norman's mother, must have told Arbogast something. She's like, I kind of want to go talk to Norman's mom because there must be some reason why Arbogast was talking to her, doing this and that. Like she must have revealed something to him that led Arbogast on a goose chase, and that's why he's not here. Sam warns her in this moment, though, like about going up to the house, but Lila wants Sam to keep Norman occupied while she goes to the house to investigate. Lila then sneaks into the Bates house and she's exploring this eerie, frozen in time atmosphere throughout the entire house. And while searching what looks like Norman's mother's room, Lila finds this distinct imprint in the bedding, and this like suggests that someone was just there presumably Norman's mother,
was just there.
was just there.
It looked like
or been there forever.
I was going to look like they were just there for years.
Just
this
there for a long
imprint
time.
was nuts. It
Yeah.
looked like it was at least 8 inches deep.
That's true.
It
You're
was
right.
comical.
It was
like how deep
comically
this
intense.
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. You're
like
right.
the indent was crazy. It was just
It
it
was a
wasn't
lot.
big. It wasn't like a big lump. It was like a perfect fetal position
Yeah.
indent of a body.
Totally. Then meanwhile, while Sam is talking with Norman panics a little bit. And he like has a moment where he realizes that Lila is probably doing something bad. And so he races back up to the house. At the same time, while Lila is still in the house, like investigating, she finds herself going down into the cellar.
She goes in there. Obviously, it's dark, and the only thing that's lit up is just by that super generic basement or attic light that's just hanging down by a
middle,
rope
yeah.
in the middle, and you pull it, and it only lights up,
Yeah.
a 6-foot square part of the room. Then you see what looks like an old woman sitting in a chair from the back of her head, and she goes in. She was like, "Oh, Mrs. Bates," and turns the chair around, and then it's just this mummified skull and
With a gaping mouth that's kind of like.
and then she backs up and then hits the light with her head, and it's swinging around. Like, aside from the shower scene, this is like another like absolute iconic scene. But something that's super funny is they obviously had different versions of this mother corpse. They make a bunch of different ones, see what works. And apparently, what Hitchcock would do was he would hide one of the corpses in Janet Leigh's like closet in her dressing room.
Really?
And would wait outside, and he would judge her scream based on how actually like scary that it was.
Oh my God. I love that.
She took it as like a funny joke, but him, it was all business.
I would die to be in a horror film. So would fucking everyone. So
There's
I feel
enough
like I feel very cliche, like even saying it, but I would love a director who was fucking with me to get me scared in preparation for like acting for my scenes.
You say that now.
No, I'm not kidding. I love being scared. That is my adrenaline rush. That is why I love horror films. A lot of people, it's so funny, you guys.
I've heard you in haunted houses. It's just
Oh, I get fucking so scared. I'm not like immune to all of this stuff. It's so funny because my friends that don't love horror, when I explain to them what we really do for the podcast and stuff, they all just think I'm like a psychopath and that like nothing scares me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you guys, I am still terrified of horror movies. It's just my version of an adrenaline rush. It's like a roller coaster for me. I just love it so much. But like, damn, tap me fucking in, Alfred Hitchcock.
well,
He's dead. But maybe in the afterlife, we'll
Maybe
do something
in the
together. We'll collab.
afterlife.
We'll collab.
a ghostly collab.
Yeah. But you guys, this is a pivotal moment in the film because as Lila has now discovered that Norman's mother is this mummified corpse and she has turned the skeleton around in the chair and it's become completely revealed to us, to her, to everyone watching this film, Norman then bursts into the fruit cellar and he is dressed in like a woman's dress, just like his mother. He's wearing a wig and he has a knife in hand and he's about to go after Lila. But in the same moment, Sam comes in behind him and restrains him and ends like the entire thing in terror. And the thing that creeps me out the most of this scene is once Sam gets a hold of Norman and like grabs the knife and is like bringing Norman down to the ground, Norman still has this crazy look in his eye with his mouth open, like he was about to scream and like attack. That doesn't go away. He holds on to that for the entirety of the scene. And it really, really sells the fact that Norman is just so mentally disturbed. He believes in this moment that he is his mother, Norma Bates, and that he's about to carry out this murder, right? Whew. Did you, it's hard to say this because we both saw this film so young. Did you have any inkling that he was the killer and that he was his mother in, different form?
If I had never seen this, I'd never heard about it, I think not seeing her face would have been suspicious. But even through the film, you could hear an old woman's voice.
Totally.
Even though I was actually, I think, an old woman, like it was actually Norman talking to himself in different voices and different characters. But they didn't really give any reason for us to think that it was.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like there wasn't really any clues. They didn't really leave any breadcrumbs. They kind of set it up, aside from not seeing her, they kind of set it up to be that way. But it's also crazy how tight-lipped that whole thing was in regards to production.
Oh yeah,
The whole
100%.
twist at the end. Because like even though like the book, for instance, that this was on, Hitchcock had his assistant go buy every copy in town.
Yeah.
Even when it was in pre-production, when he would talk to reporters about who they're thinking about casting, he would have a list of actresses that he was considering playing the part of Mother.
Wow.
And
Do we know any of them?
No, I don't think so. But I do know there was someone that was mentioned, but they even held auditions for it.
Wow.
There was a chair, like the director's actress chair
Yeah.
on set that said Mrs. Bates. If there was
that's
anyone
fun.
around that wasn't part of the production, like scream level, like they covered up every single track to avoid this getting out.
Wow. I love that.
Even at the beginning of filming, which is something that I think he had done with his TV show, he would do an oath that everyone would make an oath that they couldn't talk about anything that they were going to see or film until
A
the
modern
movie
day
was released.
NDA.
Exactly. Blood oath.
Yeah. Oh
But it's crazy how tight-lipped that was back then and how awesome it probably would have been to actually see this for the first time.
Totally. Oh my
You're
God.
like, what? The mom's the dude? Norma is Norman?
The dude's the mom. The mom's the dude. I mean, guys, I feel like I've talked about this in a previous episode, but also the producer and I, like, we just watched the Bates Motel in its entirety, like the show.
It's like a reimagined prequel.
You had seen the first episode or the first season?
I've seen the first couple seasons and then I kind of burnt out on it, but we had rewatched it recently and it's a very reimagined, like modern day. Yeah,
it's not exact by any means, but
Norma's alive and well.
She is, but
Vera Farmiga, crazy.
Damn, it made me fucking interested just that much more in the lore and just like what inspired the story in general. Oh my God, it's so good. And like,
it was almost like Norman had some issues, but he seemed like a normal kid. And it's kind of like they imagine how he had gotten to this point.
How he got there.
And it was slow. It wasn't like a slippery slope. Yep. It was a slow build up. And they did a freaking amazing job with that show.
But then when we got there. And I knew why we got there. And that was the bad part. But anyways, we have a little bit more left in this film.
Norman's just a silly goose.
He's a silly goose. So to close this film out, you guys, in our last scene, we are now at the police station. And not only the entire like police team, there's a psychologist that's been called in explaining to the group of cops and everyone that's involved in the case.
And they just don't get it.
They don't get it. But he's trying to explain that Norman has a split personality. That Norman was actually the one that killed his mother and her lover, the one that bought the motel. Then he developed a mother persona in order to cope with like her death. The thing with Norman is that he fully believes that he is his mother when he's in that state.
This is also another scene that Hitchcock absolutely hated. It was another thing he felt like it wasn't needed. It was like, here's this big reveal, and then let's just slow down really quick. He felt like it was boring. And that's another thing that the studio made him do because they felt like they needed to express in the film Norman's actions. They needed to justify why it happened, why he wasn't just some random dude that liked to kill people. They pushed him to add this in. Like I said, explain it. It was kind of misplaced. It was a little boring. We didn't really need it. Yeah, it's kind of funny that Hitchcock has came out and said all these scenes that he didn't like the ones with the sheriff.
Oh, like kind of filler scenes?
Kind of just filler. They're like, oh, I didn't really need that.
Yeah.
And if Hitchcock was in the room, he'd be like, I know.
I get it, you guys.
I don't like it either.
Then we are in Norman's holding cell. It's just us with Norman, just us, the viewers.
And it is a slow push in.
It is a slow push in, and we're looking at Norman, and he's got a blanket on him while Mother's voice is narrating in his head. And as it does this slow push, his face slowly dissolves into an image of his mother's skull. At the same time, too, towards the end, then it morphs into Marion's car being dredged up from the swamp. This like ending to me is like one of the most chilling, lingering endings in horror cinema. And then Finn.
That last scene is also really, that smile at the very end.
Oh, it's just
because it
gives you, I'm psychotic.
Yeah. In that moment, he's Mother.
He is Mother.
You know? And
just like the psychiatrist said, like he believes that he truly is his mother in those times.
And he snaps in and out of it. But like in that moment, a fly lands on his hand. And she was like, I'm not even going to kill that fly. They're gonna look at him and be like, oh, he wouldn't even hurt a fly. It's then that smile with that skull transition. Like it was
so spooky.
It was I would say a really, really good ending where it's like he got caught, but where do we go from here?
No, totally. Yeah.
And then they find the car and they're like, oh, he's screwed.
Yeah.
But then there's sequels. So
what were your final thoughts on this film?
This film in all was kind of just groundbreaking in a lot of ways. We might have gotten to the point we are now without it, but it was one of those firsts that did all of these things. All these things were just an idea and they were bad. Then when people saw them on screen, everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So what happens when everyone loves it? Well, maybe we need to loosen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, we're so like desensitized now to what would be considered like abnormal. It's even like back then, like a toilet being flushed is crazy
so
taboo.
Yeah.
You would think like, I'm imagining the writer is like, what would be a crazy idea if we saw a toilet flush? And everyone's like, whoa.
Wouldn't this just bend the norm?
Like,
yeah,
whoa,
totally.
man. Hey.
Too far.
But like I would say everything in this film was, and yeah, it technically was an experiment and it was all just, it was a gutsy move, and a gutsy move on top of being done so well. The fact that Hitchcock was able to take this out of his own pocket, hired people he trusted, because the entire crew was his TV crew. He had surrounded himself with people that he had worked with in the past and they had trusted, and that they trusted him.
Yeah,
because
totally.
he couldn't pay everybody a whole lot, but they all trusted that it would all pan out at the end.
Yeah.
But it essentially became the cornerstone of film.
Yeah.
The way it's being analyzed to this day, the way it's still talked about,
Absolutely.
The word psycho, everybody knows it.
Everyone knows
it. They made an unfortunate reboot, but aside from that, I mean, I would say like just the writing in general. There's this thing that I read that was pretty cool, was explaining on how even the house itself is that each level is a different part of Norman's mind.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
The ground floor, everything's a-okay. Mm-hmm. Norman's very balanced. He's in control. And then the top floor is, I would say, the control upon him, that's where Mother lives.
The mother's quartus.
Exactly. And that's where the control comes from. And it's almost as if that's when he is having these mental conversations with her. He's talking, she's responding. But then the basement or the cellar, that's like the darkest pit of his mind.
Yeah.
So when he thinks, I got to take Mother somewhere, I'm going to take her down into the cellar, because that's where everything sits and that's where everything is at its darkest. Because that's also where we see him as Mother for the first time. There's just so many layers to this, and it would take hours to completely unpack. But there's a reason why there's multiple books on it. Everybody has torn this thing apart.
Yeah.
And it's usually all really good things. And they're all things that people have carried on to films these days. And back then, it was literally just a movie.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was going to work. Hitchcock hated everything about it. Once they were done filming, he fully assumed it was going to flop. He, once again, trusted his team, trusted his editors, trusted the composer that kind of put in those finishing touches and then made it essentially this masterpiece.
Yeah.
There's a huge reason why it's still one of my favorites. The amount of times I've seen it, I saw it way too young of an age, but
same.
I have like so many personal memories attached to it, just the sake of the nostalgia.
Yeah.
And it's still so freaking good. But what were your thoughts? I'm out of breath.
Okay, so I'll keep mine like relatively quick, but my thoughts is that even though Psycho, back then, like it was marketed as like a psychological thriller, but I think that this film truly is like such a total game changer that really flipped horror and suspense on its head. It shocked everyone, killing the main character early, MacGuffin. And I love that it just like leaned into the psychological scares instead of having like real monsters. But like Norman Bates is the monster. And he is so creepy because he seems so normal, which adds another level of fright within the people that are viewing it. Because this could be someone that you live next door to. This could be a motel that you go to. This could be someone in your town.
I've stayed in some creepy motels.
Yeah, right? And I think between like Hitchcock's direction, the famous score, and that unforgettable shower scene. This movie just nails tension in so many different ways. It really digs into themes also like voyeurism, repression, and all of this is happening while pushing the limits of what a movie could show back then, which we just talked about, like having a couple in bed together in their underwear in the 1960s, showing a fucking toilet flushing. Like all of this really pushed the limits of what was like appropriate, quote unquote, back then. And Psycho basically set the stage for modern slashers and proved that horror could be real cinema. Like, hello? Hell yeah, brother.
This was Hitchcock's one of his first horror films. It's kind of...
And the influence on this was just so fucking enormous. It was just, it pushed boundaries and it was just so amazing. Like, I just love this film so much. It broke those box office records. It challenged the production code and it influenced like generations of filmmakers. Without it, slasher films like Halloween to Friday the 13th may not exist in the same form. Psycho is not just a horror movie, but it truly is like that turning point in cinema. And it's a work that shocked its original audience. And it continues to feel like unnervingly modern in some ways.
That's why it holds up so well.
Exactly. And so anyways, I love it. 10 out of 10. This is such a great film. I am just so thankful as a horror lover that this film was made. There were a lot of things that tried to keep it not from being made in the same way.
It only worked out because of what Hitchcock was able to achieve before that. Mm-hmm. He made a name for himself.
Yeah, so he was able to bend the rules a little bit.
Yeah, he had just came off the heels of, I was at North by Northwest and like how good that was. But
totally.
But it was, which I mean, as a creative, I've been in these moments too, where he was tired of making these big budget box office thrillers. He wanted to do something obscure, something small, something challenging. And he had everybody tell him, no, you're not going to do that. And then he was like, I'll just pay for it myself.
He's like, well, I'm going to do it.
It's a huge risk. And if it gets a lot of flack, if you haven't seen it, I heavily recommend the Hitchcock biopic. Yeah. The one that's with Anthony Hopkins and Helen Mirren, because it's literally just kind of about Psycho, but I don't know how much of it is true, but a lot of it is about his relationship with his wife in that moment, since she was a big component as well. But him trying to get it and then them having to consider putting another mortgage on their house because he's got to pay for it because they literally spent all their money. There wasn't anything left. So it was a huge risk. But, you know, you're saying it paid off. And we are insanely thankful that it exists, because then you think about all these other movies that don't exist because they just said, okay, I won't do it. So it took a lot of things to fall into place, but I think I would say the moral of the story is trust. Yeah. That's what it required. Everyone trusted that he would get it done. He trusted everyone around him that they would get it done. And it was done flawlessly.
Yeah. Fuck, guys. Damn. It's just such a good film. I just can't. That is Psycho, ladies and gentlemen. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Spooky Chicks and Horror Flicks. We just launched motherfucking merch at shop.spookychickspod.com, or you can find the link in our bio at any time on Instagram.
Also, check out our website. It's fun.
Yeah,
our website's cute.
Guys.
We have a cute website.
It's freaking cute.
It's adorbs.
Also, guys, if you want some bonus content, join us over on Patreon for our Spooky Chicks Social Club. And if you want to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star review wherever it is that you listen. But honestly, you guys, truly the best way that you can support the podcast is just by telling another friend that loves horror. Just spread the word. We love hearing all of the people that you have shared our podcast with. And we just want to keep the family growing. So with that, producer, are you ready to close us out today?
Sure. Yeah, I can take a stab at it.
Okay. And Allie, this is for you, girlfriend.
Honestly, when Allie couldn't record, I told her, I was like, hey, just write down what you want your clothes to be. And then she was like, you got it.
She trusts you.
I was like, man, all right.
She knows you'll do a good job. You'll do a good job in her honor.
I know. It's hard. They're metaphorically big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm. Even though she's so little.
I was going to say metaphorically so big shoes.
She's so little. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. We all go a little mad sometimes. Say hi to your mother for me. And stay spooky, fuckers.
Yeah.